So, hello everyone again. I don't know if everyone knows me, so I will introduce myself a little bit. My name is Jaro, and I am a software engineer. So this presentation will be from completely different angle, not about economical point of view of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but more about technology. Because actually, when I thought about this event, I wanted to share like 3 main points, and one point that actually cryptocurrencies can be a really good money. And Rokas shared that his ideas and showed some points why. And also we wanted to share that actually technologically maybe we need like more 2 or 3 years, but it's possible that anyone on the planet would be able to pay for coffee or for anything when it will be already unit of account stage of cryptocurrencies. So we need like maybe 5 years, but until then we will have technology and wallets and everything prepared to be used it widely. Yes? So everyone could be able to use with their just card or mobile phone touching some some device in the shop, and it just would charge you a little bit of Satoshi. So technologically, scalability problem from mathematical point of view for me is done, yeah? But what I want to share, it's why still from technological point of view, why still I believe that Bitcoin as itself is the best cryptocurrency. Because you would say that, okay, but there are like much better and new technologies, for example, Ethereum, yes? So why not Ethereum, for example? Or Bitcoin has problems with the fungibility, so why not Monero? Yeah, so there are like maybe 2,000 of different technologies which are solving problems differently, and also we are listening a lot of information about blockchains, and I would like to share how Bitcoin blockchain is different. Why in Bitcoin blockchain they are doing not that much innovation, like they are not talking about a lot of innovation and stuff. So first of all, Bitcoin is about money. And Ethereum is a general purpose blockchain. So the problem of Ethereum is that it's actually for everything and for nothing. And with this approach, Ethereum database grows into super huge amounts. It's really hard to run full node, even for me, for engineer. Even if I am giving consultations, I am not running full node anymore. And even I understand that Ethereum is not able to be a global blockchain or something like that. And when I tried to help some merchants to accept ethers as money, we understood, and tokens especially, so tokens are always more expensive in transaction fee than Bitcoins, just because of nature of Ethereum blockchain. So, and tokens are always more expensive than ethers, like Ether token on Ethereum blockchain. And so tokens, we just delete them from the calculation as a money. It's not a good form of money. It's controlled because it's issued by central authority which can, like I had a client who deployed a smart contract with some token, and then they understood that they need a little bit different rules, and like in 2 days they decided to redeploy again to the new address, and okay, we will just inform our user that it's now a new place. So it's like, who will stop them? Nobody. They can decide and do like that because they are accepting their own tokens. So we need something which is really decentralized. Yeah. So first, really important thing of money, it's for me, it's decentralization. It have to be decentralized system, and to be decentralized, it should not have one person or one server which can be destroyed, or 10 servers which can be destroyed. So if G20 would decide to destroy Bitcoin, it would be still hard. If G20 would decide to destroy some small cryptocurrency, it's really easy. Yeah? And from like in Bitcoin, all the developers all the time, when they are thinking about any innovation, which we will talk in a few minutes about, they are thinking about couple of main points. So first, it's a decentralization, yeah? How to make it decentralized. And they are really helpful, like thankful for Satoshi that he disappeared. Maybe he is died, maybe it's created right, nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares anymore who is Satoshi in Bitcoin community. Because it's a really big gift for community that there are no leader. Even if you would look to good communities like Litecoin community or Ethereum, you have a leader. And Vitalik decided that there will be Ether 2.0, and it will be not compatible with main chain, which is current, and everyone says, okay, cool. And in 2 or 3 years, all your smart contracts written on main Ethereum will be not working anymore, because an Ethereum 2.0 is totally different technology. If Charlie Lee will say something to do in Litecoin, most probably the whole community will support him. Yes, he tries to be not invasive and stuff like that, but still, he's a really important person. And just by saying that I sold a little bit of, or all of my Litecoins, he can drop price just because people don't believe in Litecoin more. Or like his tweet can change how people think. And that's not very good to have leader. But it's also not very good to have one organization which controls. Yeah? And it's not very good to have one server. And we will talk more about why in Bitcoin it's so important not to raise a block size. Because the easy answer, because of decentralization. Another problem is scarcity. Yeah? So we know that it's really important for money to have this parameter. And all the technology have to be constructed the way that we would support that. Then we have a very important point, which is really the weakest point of Bitcoin right now. It's a fungibility. And the last one is scalability. Many people are talking about scalability, especially last year, and beginning of this year, it was super important topic. But actually, we are not in the stage when Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are already medium of exchange globally. Scalability is something we should work on, but it's not the most biggest problem from my point of view right now. There are another problems which to work on. So let's talk about each of those parts. So decentralization. And by decentralization, we mean a couple of players. One player, it's mining, yes? And usually people say, those who fighting against Bitcoin, that Bitcoin is centralized because of miners, because of mining pools. But actually last year we got 30% more mining pools that we had a year ago. So it's growing. Bitmain was one of the main miner producers. But right now, if you want to buy mining hardware for Bitcoin, you can choose from 5 or more providers. And such corporations as Samsung are already working on mining software for Bitcoin. So this problem is starting to be a little bit less and less important. And what is another that people forgot to mention, that actually from mining centralization point of view, all other cryptocurrencies are even more centralized. Even if Bitcoin is quite centralized in mining, but it's not anymore mainly in China, it's not anymore like 7 players, another cryptocurrencies has much bigger problems with mining centralization. And those who are talking about proof of stake mechanism, there are even more problems of centralization like networks like EOS already had a lot of scandals about cartels between those who has a lot of EOS tokens, and it's really hard problem. So actually, even if it's not ideal in Bitcoin, it's the most decentralized network at the moment. Another that's a really important point of decentralization, it's full nodes. Why? Why full nodes are super important? Why, and why Bitcoin community developers especially was really against growing block size? Right now, you can run your Bitcoin node on super cheap computer, which costs $50 in Africa, with a shitty network. Why? Because it's still only 1 megabyte block, so you have to do. Okay, it's a 2 megabytes, but it's not 32 or something like that. Yeah, so it's really important because to have not super big blocks, because we would like to have full nodes around the whole planet, anywhere. So if blocks will become like 1 terabyte or at least 1 gigabyte, who will be able to run them? Only big corporations. Even small companies will be not able to pay for that hardware. When I looked at requirements for hardware for some altcoins, so they are requesting you to have 128 gigabytes of RAM. Like, it's not that easy to get that hardware. Yeah, that's a minimal requirement of hardware, and like in Bitcoin, it's super important to have possibility to have those nodes around the globe. And why it's super important? When was that debate? Actually, for Segwit 2x, for rising block size, was voting 80 or 90% of miners. So most of miners was ready to rise the block size. But because of users, of those who are running full nodes, of those who are accepting Bitcoin transactions, of those who are doing Bitcoin transactions, they told, we will call your fork not a Bitcoin, but S2X or something like else. Even if you will have more mining hash rate, it will be not Bitcoin for us. And those people understood that actually another power of those full nodes, because everyone is using not a miner's full nodes, but they are using all the full nodes around the globe. They understood that there could be really disaster in the network, and they canceled. They canceled fork, and like all those miners are still mining the classical Bitcoin.
Yaro, how many full nodes we have, and what's the incentive to run a full node?
There are a couple of incentives to run full nodes. We have tens of thousands full nodes. It's not hundreds of thousands. It's like maybe 20,000, like something like that. But there are a couple of incentives. One incentive, if you're actually a company like CoinGate or like our company or some startup which is working with Bitcoin, which have to analyze transactions, see, check, so it's much faster for you because it's super cheap and easy request for read transactions. But for any normal user, it's also incentive to be a little bit more anonymous. Because if you're sending your transaction through centralized, like through not your own node, you actually showing your IP address and showing which transaction is actually yours. But when you have full node, and so from your full node, there are going out a lot of transactions, not yours, because your node is listening for another people transactions, getting them, writing and sending forward. So actually by sending forward, you're just adding one more transaction which is yours. So anonymity, like a little bit of this privacy, you can get a little bit more privacy by running full node. So that's a second reason. And third reason, that you can recheck if miners didn't fake blockchain. And actually, we recently had a really big bug in Bitcoin core software, not in protocol, but software, which is running on most of nodes. But because some people were running different versions of nodes, they would see that there is something not good. So we are 100% sure that nobody used that vulnerability on Bitcoin. But on another altcoins, they already used. And now people are trying to understand, oh, now altcoin, somebody created new money. Cool. And leadership. I was talking about leadership a little bit earlier, so I will not repeat. So actually, you would say that Litecoin has almost everything, but it has less full nodes, it has a less mining power, and it has a leader. Yeah? So everything has Bitcoin, but a little bit less decentralization. Scarcity. What technologically we are talking about scarcity? Yeah? So first, it's a strong cryptography. Yeah? Because if somebody will find a solution how to crack SHA-256 algorithm, Bitcoin will be kind of in trouble. So here, we are not afraid about that much, but when we are thinking about 20 or 50 years in the forward, we are thinking about such things as quantum computing. And some people saying, oh, when quantum computers will be good enough, your Bitcoin cryptography will be destroyed. Actually, not only Bitcoin cryptography, all your banking cryptography, all your another cryptography will be, passports, identities will be in trouble. But actually, Bitcoin will be not in that big trouble. It's the first of all. Because if you're sending each time when you're getting Bitcoins, you're getting them into new address, and using that address only once, you're still not revealing your public key.
But you should reveal your public key when you do transaction.
Yes, but if you do...
Miner put your transaction in block if quantum computer, let's say...
will pay more...
can reverse...
but you have to pay more for your tron.
For miners pay more.
Yeah. But don't think that quantum computers will catch that in 20 seconds. Actually, they say that when we will be in quantum computing world, there will be possible that they will crack that private public key pair in 1 month. And it will be a big success. Nobody says that it will be in seconds. We are expecting that even if they will be able to do that in 1 year, it will be big trouble. Yeah. And until they will do that in 1 second, we will for sure move to some new schemes. And now a lot of mathematicians around Bitcoin are thinking about quantum safe cryptography, because hashes are quantum safe part of cryptography of blockchain, and public-private key, it's not quantum safe. And there are already a few mathematical tricks, cryptographical crypts, which are quantum safe. One of them, it's actually developed more by a Zcash community, but it's easily adoptable for Bitcoin. It's called Starks. It's really new technology, but it's quantum safe. And so we already have people who are working on that, and they have at least 10 years or 15 years for that. So it's really important for Bitcoin to think about that scarcity, and a lot of development is not in engineering, how to do like some engineering part, which are most of other tokens does, yeah, decentralized something, but more about cryptography, about this strong part, yeah. And another problem, like important thing of scarcity is hash rate. So Bitcoin, because if you control most of hash rate, you're the most safe network. And actually, for Bitcoin, it's very big plus that it's a ASIC mining software. We have a lot of graphic cards used not only for mining. For example, a lot of research laboratories use them for machine learning. And years from now, more and more laboratories and companies will buy new graphic cards for machine learning. So in the future, those blockchains which has proof of work, which use graphic cards, are more vulnerable than Bitcoin, because you just can stop your huge fleet of cards which are doing something else, move them to attack some blockchain, and then you can reuse them again. But if you will buy a lot of ASICs, it's really already hard. And but still, after you will attack Bitcoin, if you will do that, you will destroy all your investment. It's much more expensive to attack ASIC mineable blockchain than a GPU mineable blockchain. Not just about hash power, but because you're not able to reuse that hardware for anything else. So you're like cutting the tree on which you're sitting. It's not just like cutting a tree when you are staying on the ground and you can run somewhere else. No, here you're literally cutting tree on which you're sitting, because you have to invest like hundreds of millions, maybe $1 billion to attack Bitcoin blockchain, especially if you do that from scratch. So here, I would say that on these 2 points, we should say that in scarcity, it's really, really strong position on Bitcoin already. And we should say that this is the really most scarce blockchain. And decentralization, it's good, but it still have a little bit, we have what to do on, because we're still thinking about this mining centralization. There are some arguments about that, but still that's the most decentralized blockchain in existence. Okay, and then let's talk, like we can talk about scalability. And why, like, when we talk in Bitcoin about scalability, usually people, if somebody at least was reading at least something, they say, okay, there was debate about Segwit versus block size. And why Bitcoin decided that the choice of Bitcoin Cash is not proper. Like I already mentioned that when you're raising block size.
Can I just say one thing, that Segwit is actually also...
I will explain what is Segwit.
Block size as well.
But it's not like 128 megabytes, yeah? It's not that way. And it's only 1 times, and you're not able to say that it's a scalability solution in this way. So actually, what is Segwit? Like, and how I would explain that debate. So just imagine, we have blocks with the transactions. Yeah? And we see that, oh, our block's already full of transactions. We don't have space. What to do? And one solution was, let's make blocks bigger, so we will have more transactions. And bigger and bigger and bigger, and that would mean more centralization, more expensive hardware, and still not infinite scalability problems, because then you will have a networking problem on some level. Our internet connection will be too slow in most of places in the planet, so you will be not able even each 10 minutes to download terabyte of the information, yeah, or like even gigabyte. Like it would be too expensive, even for some organizations. Yeah. So another solution, which decided Bitcoin community, let's put more transactions in the same block size. So just let's make one transaction cheaper. Because we have transaction which has some weight. So like just imagine that it's a transaction, and it has a couple of different things, like itself, from where you're taking money to whom you're sending, and quite big part of that transaction was like signature witness. Yes, so like, because when you say that this Bitcoin I can use, you have to sign and prove that it's mine, it's Bitcoin which I can use before you're sending it to someone else. So what they decided to do, let's move that signature out of that transaction. So we will make transaction smaller. And just to make some numbers, so signatures in average, because there are really different transactions in Bitcoin. You can send money from many people to many people at once, from one person to many people, from many people to one person in one transaction. But in average, it's about 50–60% of space of that transaction, it was signature. So actually, when you're moving that signature out of blockchain to some side chain, it's already twice. And because we didn't want it to have hard fork, so we had to store it somehow. So they find a way how to store it still in the same blockchain, but there is a. Okay, I'm going to be too much technical, but the idea is that now, because we allow more smaller transactions, because we have smaller transactions, we can have up to 2 times more transactions per one block, which still means that our blockchain database itself will grow a little bit faster. So as Rytis mentions, it is a block size increase, but not that was the reason why Peter Mueller, I think, sorry, I don't remember the name of author, but why he decided, like why he proposed Segwit. Initially, Segwit was proposed not for scaling. It was proposed to solve transaction malleability problem, and actually solving this problem really helped Lightning Network to exist. It would be much less secure and not that easy to implement Lightning Network on top of Bitcoin if Segwit would be not existed. And now we have, so I should mention that it's a Segwit, then it's a Lightning Network, which moves transaction out of blockchain at all, and you're storing only once. Like Lightning, for me, it's just imagine, yeah? So imagine the times when $1 was worth some amount of gold. You have a little bit gold, you go to bank, you're putting to bank, and you're getting a little bit banknotes. Or even checks, yeah? You're just writing checks. And you go to different places and writing checks. Check for you, check for you, check for you. And those people can connect like 10 checks from different people, like 10 different people go to the bank and says, give me my gold or put this to my account now, like move accounting from their account to mine. And that's how Lightning actually works. Yeah? So with the checks, we're doing peer-to-peer transaction. And sometimes we still need to go to bank. And in this case, Bitcoin blockchain is kind of bank, which knows all of our balances. And we can go with 100 transfers. Like we don't need to store in Bitcoin every coffee payment. But if I would pay for car or house, maybe I wouldn't use that through Lightning Network. I would feel much more secure to accepting or sending that transaction through actual Bitcoin blockchain. And paying even $50 of transaction fee wouldn't be a problem then. So without Segwit, Lightning Network would be much harder. It's possible, but much, much harder. Then, now we are working on Schnorr signatures. It's one more idea how to make those signatures even using even less space. So again, Bitcoin community always tries to put into the same box more transaction, not to make a box bigger. And Schnorr signatures is something which was already introduced in 2006, I think. It was introduced by a couple of Bitcoin developers and a couple of Stanford researchers. No, Schnorr signature, sorry, was proposed by a guy which surname was Schnorr. It's a mathematician. And he just found a way how to get 20 signatures and make one signature from those 20 signatures, which would be in a space, would take the same space as one of those 20, like plus minus. That means that if you're doing multi-sig transactions, when 20 people signing or 2 people signing, and that's really often things for exchanges and for like organizations, or if people would like combine multiple inputs from different their accounts with different signatures, that would make less space on blockchain. So plus 30% or up to 40% of space. So this upgrade, upcoming upgrade, I think that next year we will have a soft fork of Bitcoin which will introduce Schnorr signatures. And here, Schnorr signatures allows us to make Bitcoin blockchain more fungible. What is fungibility? Fungibility, it means that if I have 2 coins, those 2 coins should be identical, those 2 things. And currently, there are situations when you have like Bitcoins, you try to spend them, and some merchants don't accept. Because that's a black Bitcoins. They already learn how to find that it's a black Bitcoin. And how it could be black Bitcoin? Because government finds that somebody used those Bitcoins on some black market, and then those Bitcoins went through 20 hops, and now you own them, yeah? So you're not bad person, but nobody knows, because bad people could also do 20 hops between their own wallets. And everyone tries to defend themselves against such black money. So they're marking those UTXOs, it's unspent transaction outputs. This one in this transactions family in tree, it's not very good. And that's a problem. Another problem with Bitcoin, like it's as it's now, it's that people can watch how much money you have. They can put deeper into your wallets. It's not very good, yeah. So fungibility, it's quite important things. So we should have identical money. Each coin have to be identical. It should have no number on it, any label. So if I am trying to pay with it, it should be acceptable. And there are a couple of ideas how to make Bitcoin more fungible. And because I started about Schnorr signatures, so people have the method. It's already also old method, 2005 or 6, I think. It's called CoinJoin. When a couple of people tries to put their transactions together. Just, I am doing transactions, I have 2 inputs, 1 output. You're doing 20 inputs, 1 output. We are just moving all transactions into one box, and then we have one big transaction. And actually, now already it's possible to do such transactions, but usually who is doing such transactions? Those who wanna hide their money, their intentions. So usually if you do that transaction, you're already on monitor. And there are not a big incentive another than a bigger level of privacy to do that, and big headache. But with the Schnorr signatures, that incentive would be much higher, because when you're joining together into one transaction, that means that we can segregate your witnesses, then make even smaller it because of like Schnorr signature. And then you pay less of transaction fee. Then it's a reason to implement that into wallets which would collect into some place foreign transactions, remake them, and send bigger transactions. So that would make Bitcoin much more fungible. Another thing in fungibility, which already implemented, it's really interesting that many things which started in Bitcoin community or around Bitcoin researchers first is implemented in another coins. For example, Segwit was first implemented in Litecoin. Another like technology which is really hot now. It's Bulletproofs. It's just implemented a couple of weeks ago in Monero. But it's also, all the research started between Bitcoin engineers. Two of them were working even in Blockstream, and a couple of people were working in university, Stanford. And Bulletproof, it's a zero knowledge like type of mathematical trick. Mostly people, if they are in crypto space, they know a little bit about ZK snarks from Zcash. So ZK, it's a zero knowledge proof, and snark, it's a type of this proof. And Bulletproofs, it's another zero knowledge trick method, and it helped to reduce size of Monero transactions by, I think that was like 20 times or 50 times, and made Monero even more secure. But for Monero, security, like this privacy, wasn't the main issue. Their problem was that Monero transactions was super expensive. Like Bitcoin transaction is 200 bytes, and Monero transaction was like 20 kilobytes or 30 kilobytes, like much bigger. So their blockchain was growing super fast, and now the reduced size. But Bulletproofs, it's a methodology how to hide sender, amount, and receiver. So only sender and receiver knows that they got and sent coins, and only they knows the amount. And blockchain, just if you're watching blockchain, you don't know who is getting money, how much, and who is sending. But still, there are tricks how to prove that no new money was created. It's mathematically very beautiful and quite difficult. I understand that like in a fog. I spent really a couple of weeks trying to analyze it. I understand much more and happy about that, but not ready to explain how it actually mathematically works, because it's still fog for me. But it's a really beautiful fog. And there are a couple of more technologies in Bitcoin which are, but everything which Bitcoin is working on right now, it's either decentralization, either about scarcity, either scalability, either fungibility. On scalability, people are talking about I think it's a possibility to have bigger smart contracts on Bitcoin than we have now, and revealing only parts of those smart contracts, and still having them in a small transaction. And must as well would be not possible without Segwit. So actually Segwit was the key which opened many different tricks how to make Bitcoin blockchain more scalable in not just growing a size of transactions, but in different ways. I would say that that's main points which I wanted to show. I just wanted to share that on Bitcoin there are a lot of people which are working on many different interesting things. Just those things usually are worked on universities or researchers. It's more not engineerical even things, but usually even closely with mathematics. As my friend I asked my friend, like, what do you think? Where is bigger, like better innovation, Bitcoin or Ethereum? He told, yeah, I think that Bitcoin. But why then you're spending that much time working with like Ethereum and smart contracts? He told, you know, like on Bitcoin, you either working on wallets, which is a lot of code engineering and a little bit boring for him because he's a smart person. Either you're working on core protocol, but then I am too stupid. So he says that working on core protocol, I am too stupid. Working on just transactions and usual applications, it's too boring. So he spends his time on Ethereum smart contracts and things around Ethereum. But still, we understand that on Bitcoin there are a lot of innovation which will be copied maybe later on different blockchains. But at the moment, there are no better working blockchain which would solve money problem than Bitcoin. Anything else is either copies, either not working solutions, either just jokes or scams. So thank you.